Oh, it usually gives me a countdown. So we're recording now. Bam.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening. I have Miss Jen Hale, actually. Although I just noticed the on the screen it says Mason right now. So then,
Yes, it does. We both share this computer, and sometimes, yeah, it sees him as Mason.
yes, I know how that goes. Sometimes I'll change my name on here for a bunch of different reasons, honestly. Um, I wanted to talk to you today about a couple things, but I feel like I should give a little bit of a background. We've known each other for a while. We haven't seen each other for a while, but we just connected recently on a really good talk, and we thought we should get together about this podcast. We want to talk
Hmm.
about energy givers and energy takers, basically.
Okay.
And I thought the only thing I can really say is like occupational therapy is what you've been doing for a long time. You've been in different fields as an occupational therapist in terms of like clinics and then private locations, right?
Yeah, and then in different settings, like I've worked in orthopedic medicine, and more of a holistic, fitness side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But occupational therapy, the reason why they call it occupational therapy is because occupation, that word, means what you functionally do during your day. And that is from your behavior, how you think, how you get up and do all of your daily routine and your tasks to, what is your passion of, living and going to sleep. So we work on all of those things to help you be functionally successful, right? And that can be in the school systems, it can be at somebody's actual workplace, it can be in an orthopedic setting, fixing, your bones so that you can function to do all your day-to-day stuff again, or it can be, in a rehab setting or even a care facility for the elder. It really takes on every aspect of life. And that's one of the reasons why I chose the profession, because it's never gets boring. You can always incorporate it into all aspects of everyone's life, all stages of life.
I feel like that's useful to know because when I say occupational therapist to people, I wonder if you've noticed this too. They just kind of look blankly at you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like they're trying to figure out what does that mean
Right. What
exactly?
is that?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was telling people, I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast with Jen. And they're like, oh, who's Jen? And I'm like, Jen's an occupational therapist. And I was throwing it out there purposefully like that because I just
Right.
wanted to see, like, confirm a little bit. And that was the general consensus. So I was like,
Yeah, it is even in our profession. Like even on my LinkedIn pages with other OTs, they're always putting out like little blurbs of what answering that question, right?
mm-hmm,
Because nobody really can grasp the concept of it, which
mm-hmm.
is, kind of funny, but it is starting to gain a little more um understanding and a little more publicly known in the general population, which is good. But this podcast is just another way to um,
Spread the
help get
word,
the
right?
word out on what it
Yeah.
is that we do. And I'm just going to give you this one. It's by a fellow occupational therapist that posts inspirational quotes, but it says occupational therapy empowers people to live a life they deserve, they design, and they desire. So,
Okay.
working on empowering people, fixing people to live the life that they deserve, they desire, they design, right?
Right.
And so that's a good way to explain it too, but always these fun ways to try to explain what we do.
So speaking of design,
Yes.
we're kind of talking about design with energy givers and energy takers.
Yes.
So a lot of times you may go into an environment, right, where you see business, workplace, or whatnot, or you see someone's home, right,
Right.
and you're looking for energy givers and energy takers in a way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And in our environment plays a huge role on how we function. And people kind of get so like absorbed on, just, how they're physically doing and how they're mentally doing and don't look at how our environment affects all of it. One of my biggest things in, my new venture of going out on my own is really helping people create balance in all aspects of their lives. Because when you are in balance, you are successful and you have harmony and you have peace, right? And you can think of so many things that if one thing's off balance, the other's not going to go well either. If your environment is off balance, and you have so many things taking and stealing your energy in your environment around you, you're not going to be successful in your goals in your day. So yeah, absolutely a big one.
I like that a lot because I don't really get to go into people's environments as much as I
Hmm.
do, honestly. But we talk about their environments a lot when we're in
Right.
the gym, for example, or when we're talking about like a nutrition plan and all that kind of stuff. The reminders and the cues that you get from your environment, both conscious and subconscious, I think about a lot. Oh, I kind of want to go into a list of examples.
Sure, do it.
Um,
Yep.
so that's one of the first things I think about a lot. And then what do you think is maybe like top three, I guess? And then maybe I'll give you my top three.
Any energy takers
I need
or
energy.
energy givers?
Let's go with energy takers first.
All right, energy takers. I think uh one obviously is, screen time and social media,
Okay.
right? It is such a distraction
Hmm.
and it limits our ability to really focus on the task at hand
Okay.
and derails you so quickly. Like you might reach for your phone to like, oh, I need that number, but then you have all these pop-ups and soon you're just in that rabbit hole of, oh, let me
Yes.
just read these. Let me just go on LinkedIn real quick. Let me just go on Facebook real quick. Let me just see
Time
who did
gets
this.
dilated, basically.
Yes,
And then
it's
all of a
such
sudden you're
an
getting a
energy
notification
taker.
from your phone telling you
Yes.
you've been on this for 8 hours.
But one of my things that I think is a secret one that we don't really put in the forefront is a lot of times we overthink things.
Mm-hmm.
We're overthinkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which then just prevents you from moving forward. And it can be such an energy taker because you've just absorbed so much of your, mental energy overthinking something instead of just taking action. And then,
Like that one a lot. That's a
um,
theme right now with me, by
yes,
the way.
yes. And let's see, what is my other one? This is another big one that I work
Okay.
with my clients as is people pleasing
Mm-hmm.
zaps us of our energy, right? When you are trying to please somebody else to a degree that you don't even really focus on what your self needs are because you think who your identity is, what you want to be, and you're afraid to be that thing or move forward because you don't think the person you're trying to please is going to be in line with that.
Yeah.
And, it's like please yourself first and the rest will fall into place.
That's a hard one for a lot of people.
It's so
Yeah.
hard. It's so hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even you, that triggered something in your
Mm.
brain to go,
I was
yeah,
thinking about I was thinking about
that's a
that one
hurdle.
actually. I saw a coach talk about it recently. Like
Yeah.
the people who you surround yourself around, right?
Yes.
And what's that saying? You are the average of the five people you spend the most time with, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Which spoiler alert, that could be an energy giver on the other top three.
Yes, it could be. But you got to surround yourself with the right people.
Right, right. Okay, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. There's a ton,
All
so I
right.
just want
What are
to.
your three? What are your three?
Okay, so top three. I think of this a lot of like our notorious RDMG. I think sent you a text message. Yes, it's time. So I call it
Explain that. So for people that don't understand what you're
okay.
talking about.
So we call it the notorious RDMG, and that stands for resting, digesting, moving, and grooving.
Yeah.
And these are kind of the four pillars of making positive change happen for
Mm-hmm.
people and the way
Yes.
we look at our assessments with people a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first three are the ones people think about the most, and then the last one is kind of the one I feel like people don't think about as much. So the first three is resting, digesting, moving, and the last one is grooving.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on grooving with that last one, I feel like. So I think of when people are losing energy, they're not getting their recovery, their rest in the right place. So a big energy taker will be that lack of nighttime routine, for example.
Yes.
For a
Absolutely.
ton of people. Like I'll hear so many people talk about all these dramatic strategies and things that they're trying to do for their sleep, and they don't have any kind of regular nighttime routine whatsoever. you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so
Yes.
your brain needs that. Your brain
Right.
needs that, and the recovery.
So many body systems need that. Your brain
Just
needs
yes,
that.
yes.
Your
Your body
liver
just doesn't
needs
switch
that.
into different modes like
Right.
by with
All
the
the
flip of a
chemical
finger.
reactions
Yes.
that your body needs to process energy, because that's
Mhm.
what all of our organs do, is process different chemical reactions that create energy to feed our cells to function, right?
Mhm.
Energy is what our body uses constantly, day in, day out, to function. And when we go to sleep, that's when our main systems shut down and our body uses restorative energy to repair and set ourselves up for the next day. So if you're never rebooting and restoring, you are depleting energy.
All those other efforts are going in one ear and out the other a lot
Yeah.
of times, you know, and I
Hmm.
understand it's hard for people to get, and I'm not even saying like a certain amount of hours of sleep. Like that's for our wellness challenges for like once every every once in a
Right.
while to really
Right.
push yourself if you're really sucking at it. But
Right.
even just having a routine so that way your body will learn how to wind down instead
Right.
of just
Like
passing out from
people
exhaustion.
on all levels, like even just neuroscientists and people that are studying, chronic diseases are realizing how much sleep plays into overall health. And so, there's kind of a buzzword, which I love because I think it helps explain it. You know how we have oral hygiene, you need to have sleep hygiene,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
that encompasses many things. It's not just, oh, lay your head down and close your eyes. It's create the right environment for sleep. Slow down your brain, get rid of the devices and put those away and really allow your body to kind of slow down, shut down, and prepare for restoring all of your systems to then get up and be functional the next day.
So that's the first one I think of, basically.
Yes. All right. What's next?
And then digestion, an energy taker. I'm going to give you guys a less talked about one. And I don't even think I talked about this on the podcast that much, but it's fun to bring out random ones when friends are on the call. So I think a lot of people are not paying, especially the ones who need it the most, are not paying attention to how they feel after they eat something.
Yes.
Just how
Yep.
did it feel? How did it feel after you did that? You know?
Hmm.
like I think a lot of meals people know aren't going to be the best energy givers. They're going to be more of an energy taker.
Yes.
But they do it because of a whole bunch of other reasons: convenience, efficiency in the moment versus like short-term repercussions versus long-term repercussions. Right? It's going to get me the
Right.
short-term result right now. But I think I've seen, and I feel like if this got popular, it would help so many people. But if people just took a moment after they had something, not to beat yourself up or anything like that, you know, or reflect even later in the day, but it's got to be that day. Just how did
Yeah.
that feel after I had that food? You know,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
I think that would help
Right.
make it
And I
happen.
think you close make it full circle because a lot of um, health coaches and dieting plans kind of say, well, they ask the question beforehand, why did you choose that food? Or are you eating because you're hungry, or are you eating for emotional reasons, or are you eating out of, habit?
Hmm.
Those are all big challenges. But let's take it like, how are you feeling after you eat? I think that's a really key note to kind of really bring it full circle,
You get to reflect
and
a little bit,
connect with somebody. Yeah.
and I think you get practice recalling, you know,
Right.
and that practice shows up the next time you have that decision.
Right.
If that
Well,
makes
and it also, like, if you look at habit patterns when you're trying to break a bad habit,
Mhm,
habits are so automatic. You've kind of disengaged
mhm,
to why you even do that behavior in the first place.
mhm.
And this kind of just slowly plants the seed and brings it
Yes.
back and
Yeah, it kinda
asks,
slows it down,
yeah, slows it
stops
down a little
it,
bit
and then
and
maybe starts
maybe just
turning it in the other
says,
direction over time.
yes, which I love that one. I'm going to use that one. I'm
Yeah,
going to use
that's
that
a
for
fun one.
clients.
Like,
Yeah.
last 2 years, I've been using that one a lot, and
Hmm.
it's non-invasive.
Yes.
You know?
And it's attainable.
Yes.
I mean, our fitness journeys, our health journeys, it's overwhelming, right?
Mhm.
And it's never a one size fits all. And that gets frustrating because you derail much quicker because you're like, well, that didn't work for me, and this is just a little way of saying, I'm not coaching you or demanding you to eat this, this, and this. I'm just demanding you to just put more thought into how you feel when you eat.
Yeah, a little bit more presence in the now, basically,
Yeah.
you know? Versus the machine, the treadmill, the rat race,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, the disconnect. We've become
Mhm.
disconnected to, how we meal times and eating and snacking, I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah,
we're
I feel like this one helps
snackers.
with snacking the
Americans are
most.
snackers.
It's snacking. That's really where this has come from. It's come from snacking. You got it. Yeah, energy drainer that you think is gonna be an energy giver, but
Snacks.
it's
And
more of
I
an
love
energy
snacks.
drainer than a
But
giver long term. Yeah, there you go. And that was a roundabout way of me saying unneeded snacks or
Mhm.
nutrient devoid, low nutrient density. A lot of it
Yeah.
comes down to nutrient density, you know?
And real food,
Mhm.
like, get rid of the processed food. Like, let's eat something real. Reach for an apple or some nuts and almonds instead of the candy bar
Yeah,
or the chips.
protein packed, like, things that are labeled protein packed are usually less protein packed than a lot of
I
other
know, or they're just
have
so
no
full of
protein labeling on them.
additives and
Yeah,
sugar that
yeah.
it's the protein becomes, you know, non-helpful at that point.
Okay, and then the last one,
Okay.
is moving, which a lot of times the thing I think about that's an energy taker with movement is
Hmm.
kind of obvious. It's the sedentary non-movement positions that we get stuck in.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that become major energy takers really quickly because you get into this negative feedback loop really quickly.
Right.
whereas you can get into a positive feedback loop in the other direction if you get stuck in positions for many hours, multiple days, multiple years, maybe multiple decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of work that has to come out of getting, well, I'm saying this weird, getting out of those positions
Yes.
and getting
Yeah.
into positions that you would prefer to be in,
Right.
or pain, basically, the longer that goes along. Okay, you want to do the positives?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so top 3 energy givers.
All right. One of my favorite ones that is just so healthy. And again, we kind of get out of a routine because we're either locked up at our job or have other commitments. But a huge energy giver is sunlight,
Mm,
right? And all you need is 10 minutes, it's like 10 to 20 minutes of sunlight a day to just have all these chemical reactions in your body that are positive and are
not just vitamin D.
energy givers, not just vitamin D, right?
Mhm.
For your brain, like for your mood. That's like one of my fun ones that I'm just like, okay, if you can't fit anything in this week,
Yeah,
do this one for me.
I love
Just
that.
go
Especially since it's
outside
spring
for
right
10
now.
minutes,
Yes.
right? Let your skin get 10 minutes of sunlight.
Do you know nature bathing? Have you heard of nature bathing?
A little bit, but I don't know the details of
Oh my
it.
goodness. I love nature bathing. I forget about it a little bit and then I get reminded about it. I feel like I get reminded about it about every 5 years or something like that. But I've been on course for a couple of years. We'll see if it continues. It's when you, I believe it's a Japanese strategy that was developed in the Tokyo, like, hyper modern city areas to help battle worker depression and all that kind of stuff, where they studied people using their 5 senses in a simple natural environment or a very complex natural environment, like a forest versus like a pot in their office with a plant in it type thing.
Right, right.
As close as they can get to nature. But one of the examples they give a lot is how you feel the sunlight, you smell the air, you
Yeah.
hear the wind or whatever noises, try and focus in on the natural noises. You see the flowers, the different patterns, and you go through your different senses as you walk or stand or move through an environment, a natural environment, and how much just doing that, regardless of the sunlight, will help people's dopamine, it will help their serotonin.
Yes.
All those hormones that go a little wild will drop their cortisol, you know, without the vitamin D even. Vitamin D, we're severely um, deficient in a lot of populations, but even without that, you're going to get a lot of benefit. Just paying attention, getting outside, or getting even like a little bit of your senses into nature. I feel like that's important for people to hear.
Yeah,
That's what that reminded me of.
absolutely.
What else you got?
All right. And the craziness in the background is my dog Wilson, so I
I think your
apologize for
mic is
that.
doing really good. I heard like a little bit, and then your microphone
Okay.
evens out.
Um, all right. So there's so many on the energy giving side that I mean, I just love I love the whole list. But one that I like and I encourage people to do is just take action.
Hmm.
Just take the step. That is such an energy giver,
Mm,
right? Sometimes the smallest step just then builds into, improved mood, like, oh my God, I did that and I survived, right? And just kind of getting you out of your rut. right? And so just take action. Who cares what's going to happen? Just make a change.
How much of that do you feel like is humility for people? You know, like I feel like people it's not humility immediately. At first it's their I feel like their motivation is just really high, right? So
Yeah,
they just want to do the harder thing, and it doesn't feel like it would be harder because the motivation is so high, but it really is a lot harder, you know?
right.
And then it's the humility, maybe.
It's a lot of things, right? And that's where we go into, what's blocking you. Like I really work with a lot of people and look at, sometimes it's a physical block, sometimes it's a mental block, sometimes it's an environmental block,
Hmm.
right? And so we look at like really, let's spend some time talking about what is holding you back, what is blocking you. And sometimes it's like right in front of your face, but you just need somebody to help you see it.
Yeah.
And I think that's, as like health coaches and therapists, that's kind of what we help people do. And sometimes they'll be like, oh my God, like I didn't even see that, and that allows you to move forward, right? And
Hmm.
take the next step. So that is, and that would kind of lead me into, having friends and family and reconnecting with people, because sometimes it doesn't even need to be a professional. It can just be somebody else that sees what you can't see, right? And I think because we live in the digital world and we came out of COVID, we lost some of that human connection and, typical conversations that we would have, on a day to day, even in the work setting, like interacting with your clients, just as you like went to happy hour or went out to lunch or, had a minute break, and you have these powerful conversations that seem like nothing at the moment, but they kind of stimulate your brain and set you into or affirm something or disengage a bad thought that you might be having that day, just by the interaction of, like I love going to get coffee. I love coffee, but going to get coffee is a whole event for me. And that's when I like talk to the baristas, I talk to the people having coffee around and whatever. And those are some of like my favorite parts of the day, just those quick interactions with people,
I blame
strangers.
traffic, especially in this area, honestly. I think we
Yeah.
all got used to less traffic for a little bit.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then and then like people densified, in the area, but nobody noticed because we weren't commuting as much, and we got more people in the area and it densified, and then all of a sudden people started commuting. We're like, what is this?
Yes. They went to chaos,
I'm
right?
never going out again.
You're right. But like, we do
I
need
think that might
human
just be a me thing.
connection
That might just
back
be
in
a
our
me.
life. We need human connection back in our life, and it is so healthy and necessary.
Mhm.
So that is an energy giver, and that is in part of my mission is to get people out of their little comfort zones in their routine day and change it up.
Love it. All right, I guess I'm on the spot now.
Yep.
Top energy givers. All right, so let me pull up my list here. What was my number one? My number one when I think of energy giver, man, you kind of took one of mine, honestly.
I have another one that we could talk
No,
about.
no, 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 I got it, I got it, I got it. All right, so the biggest one, which kind of, like I said, ties into what you're talking about, is maybe a new environment, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And that
Yeah.
can be outside, but just some place that will give you a new perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? People go directly like, "Oh, that's got to be a big change."
No.
No, little change.
Yeah, like, have
Like
you gone to this
maintain
coffee
your
shop
home,
before? Maybe go
maintain
to a different
exactly.
coffee
That was
shop.
an environment, right? A new environment would be change coffee places, which I've
Mhm.
done that before too. And then it's like a whole new world of
Yeah,
coffee lovers.
yeah. Well, like workflow wise, I'll just give an example of my office. This office was starting to get piled up with random things that didn't need to be in here.
Right?
And I changed the environment to some I started working in other places, but I wasn't as efficient because I had to like randomly pick things out of the office, take with me. So then I had to change the eventually I changed the office environment. So then the efficiency and the energy went way, way, way. But it's it's an overtime thing. You know, it's
Right.
so it's an example of a short-term change. I went to a different place because the office was draining my energy so much. And then I took time to revamp the office. And now the office is even better than it was before. And I don't feel like I have to leave the office to get things.
Right. And then, mentally you feel better,
Yes.
right? And you feel like recharged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just by, and that's one of the tricks for, when you are dealing with a lot of stress and life is crazy and you have maybe a lot of deadlines, is we'll say stop. And one of them is clean up a small area, every day, and just so you direct your focus on one small thing, clean that up, and it's
Yep.
amazing how you feel better. It might be the junk drawer, it might be the corner of a room, it might be your office space. And
Mm-hmm.
when you take that chance to just clear your head, focus on something else, get something accomplished, so then you feel better,
Like
and then
second.
go back to all of your deadlines and stress of life, you have a better perspective. You're grounded again, and you can now approach things better.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that one. That's a
That,
favorite one.
that was a big one. I thought that would be good for occupational therapy. That's a,
Yes, absolutely. Right.
I just had to figure out the framing a little bit. Okay, then the other one, going back to what we were talking about earlier and the people you surround yourself with and the grooving. I love
hmm
the idea of people doing things for their health that are fun and it doesn't really feel like it's something for their health. Just doing something fun, like prioritizing fun a little bit
hmm
more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that plays into one that was on the list. That was like my fourth favorite was finding new hobbies.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
that can be fun. And like a lot of times, like go out of your, like, I have no idea how to do that, but I'm going to go take a class, or
Hmm.
my husband the other day just said, let's go line dancing. Let's take line
Yeah.
dancing lessons. And I love to dance. So I'm always like, yes,
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
And that's easy and fun. And, just try it, have
Yes.
fun with it, find new hobbies, find new ways to have fun.
Yeah. It's funny because sometimes I get a little worried about asking that question when it's so obvious the person I'm working with is not having enough fun.
Yes. Right.
You know? And I have to think about ways like, hey man, what are you doing for fun lately? Like past 2 to 5 years, have you done you know? I mean, I know work can be fun, but
Right.
what are you doing for your fun, like for yourself?
Right.
I think that's a big one. And I think a lot of people will have a lot of health and fitness goals because they're for something other than themselves,
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
know? And part of that feels like they're not connected to what they want as much, what they really want as much. And they're trying to say, like, I want to get in shape. And like getting in shape for an event and something like that is not a bad idea. That's a good thing to do. It's not a bad thing to do, but it can not be the only thing for you. It's going to get you to a point in time, and then after that point in time you have to have other things, and usually those other things need to be more focused on you personally, like internally versus extrinsic stuff. So you need that
Right.
intrinsic motivation.
Right. Well, and I think this plays into a thought that I wanted to get across today was um a lot of times we don't ask ourselves the question of what is your definition of happy?
Mm-hmm.
What is your definition of fitness?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we go down the path of, oh, well, this blogger and, all my friends are
What's the
going to
right thing
Orange.
to say here?
Yes, yeah, right. And what's the right thing to say? And like
Mm-hmm.
all my girlfriends go to Orange Theory and these people do this. So I guess that's the definition of fitness. But really getting people to sit down and ask, what is your definition of fitness?
Mm-hmm.
What are your goals? What is your definition of happy?
I
And
think
sometimes
that's
you
like
kind of have to talk through those because a lot of people, when they really are true to themselves of what
stand up for
is
this. I'm so
their
excited.
happy, what is your definition of fitness? And then let's do one more. And I kind of had to talk to this my son about this one, who's in college,
Mm-hmm.
is what is your definition of success?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are so many things
The
and a
college level
lot of
question right there.
again, that is a college level question. But I think a lot of people, especially because, the world is changing and everyone's in a different environment. And, what is your definition of happy? What is your definition of fitness and health? And what is your true definition of success? And really breaking away from what the norm definition of success is. That's a hard one. And I love to work on that one with people because
So
when
much
you really
energy.
find,
So much
yes,
like
it's a
latent
positive
energy.
energy giver.
Like it's almost like it's an engine or a battery that they don't even know how to tap
Yes.
into.
Well, and you're running for something that isn't your definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think in every stage of our lives, I think we have to answer that question because it changes.
Right.
It changes. And really just check in with yourself and be like, am I really on the path or doing these things for my success? Or maybe you're doing it for somebody else's success,
Yes.
right? And they're a big energy taker.
All right, you ready for my last one?
Yes.
Okay. Voluntary load carrying versus
Ooh, define that one for
yeah,
me. Like,
I want to know. I want to keep it super metaphorical.
yeah.
No,
All
I'm just
right.
kidding.
Okay.
Well, we could. We could, right?
We could
Versus
make it very
impose.
biomechanical or we could make it
Hmm.
metaphysical.
I think there's a magic in going for a walk. I think there's even more of a strength magic in going for a walk with a load. I think when
Oh, I'm with you on this. I love it. Okay, I got it. Yes.
um I think when you choose that load appropriately and take the appropriate rest and then do it again, you get so much stronger than you would with all these other fancy exercises.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. The hard part is the stuff I just said. Figuring out what that appropriate amount is, what the appropriate amount of rest is, and figuring that out. But when you're doing it versus, I, I can't imagine a personal trainer or a coach just walking with someone and that's their whole session, like every time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like what are we doing? Right. That's
Mm-hmm.
something they have to do a lot of times. But and it's so much the results. I don't know what it is. I don't know what voodoo is happening. But when they do it themselves versus like when I do try and get them to do it all the time,
Right. Right.
I get them to do it and they're like, uh, how much longer? They do it, they're like empowered. It's an energy drainer with me, it's an energy giver with them.
Right? It absolutely is. And
But I think it's an unsung hero of strength training. I think it's also a mental I think it's a clue into other mental kind of hang-ups when it comes to energy. Though I know and I'm still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Honestly, I mean, if I broke it down into a strength realm, which is the realm I know the most about, um, you're just telling your body like you got to be able to handle this much tension over time in these positions, and it just so happens that that position is the position you're in most of the time when you're moving. You know,
Right.
so you're getting stronger in the most common position that you're in most of the time really quickly. So that makes sense why you're going to get much more efficient. And then when you're not carrying a load, everything else seems easier, right?
Right.
Maybe that's the
Yes.
mental part. There you go. I figured it out.
Hmm.
That's what it
Yeah.
feels like probably mentally, because
Right.
you're teaching yourself to do something that is hard, but you can do.
Right. And
And you're just
if you
practicing.
look at it, you could look at it physically
It's like
and
ice baths, but for
mentally. Yes, right?
mayhem.
So to create change, you have to add that element of uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And you
You have to
have to
get
allow
comfortable with that.
yourself, yes, you have to allow yourself to be in the uncomfortable,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's lifting a heavy weight, carrying a load, or even holding a plank position, right? We all know it's uncomfortable, right? and and that's what's gonna inspire and energize your body to change and wake up and
Mhm.
change, right?
Mhm.
And so, yes, being willing to step into the uncomfortable for
Yes.
sure.
There you go.
But it's easier when the person allows and takes that step themselves versus us forcing them to say, you need to do this.
Yes, and loaded carriers are the biggest example I can think of. Like, every time
Right.
we'll put those in people's programs, and if they do them on their own, the massive difference,
Right.
massive.
Right.
And
And I think,
myself included, like, I had them in my programming before, and so, like, so many mental, epiphanies just happen while you're just walking with that load, basically.
well, and I'll use myself as an example. We can talk the talk and teach it, but walking the walk is a different experience. And I had the pleasure of working with you and meeting you when way back. God, it's been 10 years, right? But when we all kind of worked at Gold's Gym for a little bit,
Mhm.
and we would all train together when we didn't have clients.
Back in the day,
And
oh, gym. I feel like we're
yeah,
talking like
right?
Arnold Schwarzenegger time.
Yeah, exactly. But and I can remember like our fellow trainers and fitness coaches,
Mhm.
we had all levels. We had people that were, power lifters and body composition show people, and like me more on the medical side, and you like really doing like the health coaching and really getting into some of the more fun, exciting, apparatuses to work out with. Like you had those kettlebells with a ape face on them.
I still
But
got them. They're my
anyway, I
favorite.
digress. But
They're my favorite.
anytime I worked out, I was the worst client
Mhm.
because I am one of those people that will be like, I don't want to do that. That's too hard. I don't want to do that. And I know that. Like I like I'm it's like I hate doing abs.
Right?
Don't make me do abs.
Right? You gotta trick them
I
into
know
it.
how good they are for me, but I don't like, but
This is why I
it's
don't
too
think AI is gonna replace trainers, by the way.
no, it's not because we are so good at derailing ourselves. If it's something that you don't like to do, you're not going to do it.
Mm,
Right. And so, again, going back to the OT side, one of the things I do is try to adapt whatever the activity or to where people are, to where so that they can be successful with an ab exercise and not feel completely deflated and unsuccessful, right? Because
mhm.
I can't do it the way that the rest of the class is doing it. And so change it. Let's modify it. Let's make it different so that we can work at your level and get you to the next step.
I think it's interesting. A lot of these are just like decisions. You know,
Yeah.
a lot we didn't talk about. I mean, the only thing that really requires equipment, like environment, is a little bit equipment related, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Your environment, but we could just be talking about like going from 2 feet in this room to 2 feet in the next room,
Right.
and then walking with a load. If you got a backpack, you can walk with the load, right?
Right.
You can walk with it.
You know what? Choose the path that you're walking on, and that changes the load. Like,
Mhm.
are you walking up a hilly,
Yes,
path in
yes.
the woods where
Mhm.
you're kind of climbing a little bit?
I
There's a
love I
load.
love like a
Yeah,
different graded environment with different.
absolutely. There's your load right there.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Good point. Good point. Okay. I
Mhm.
feel like that's everything. And I want to kind of cinch it up because I feel like those are super important and I want people to think about them. But
Yes,
do you have a couple more minutes? Because I want
I do.
okay, so I wanted to ask Jen, because we usually do this in FitQuest. What's her FitQuest look like right now? What's your FitQuest is basically a question, not exactly like what are the what is the things that you are doing strength training or exercise or fitness wise, but almost more of a why are you doing the things you're doing, I guess. That
Yes,
makes sense.
yes, absolutely.
What are you working towards?
So, I 2 years ago invested in an Aura ring.
Ooh, fun. Okay.
Yep. So that tracks my sleep and my oxygen levels and my heart rate and all that jazz, which is
Mhm.
a lot of the biofeedback
Right.
media, right?
Right.
But where I was after having 2 years of data,
Hmm.
where I was falling short is in getting enough exercise,
Hmm.
right? On a day to day,
Like
right?
heart rate wise, is it telling you your heart rate is
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
often
It's
enough?
doing all of that. I mean, I love the layers of information that
Yeah.
you can get from the Aura Ring. But one thing I did notice was that again, I'm going in my head, what's my definition of exercise? I got to get to the gym. Maybe I should join Orange Theory again. I'm not walking the dogs enough and fitting it all in, I mean, part of your life, I feel like you can, this is a good metaphor. Our life has four burners, right? Burners on a stove, right? We can't have fire to each burner all the time, right? It's impossible, right? But
Right.
we're
Right.
constantly challenging career, family, health, and friends, right? And friends and loved ones, outside, right? But it's like you don't have enough time in the day to fulfill all four burners, right? And so I would get like these like overwhelming, like I can't juggle it all. Well, one thing the ring showed me was, and I loved this because I felt like I was multitasking, and getting more things done.
Yes.
But I burned more calories and got all my energy goals cleaning my house, like sweeping and vacuuming,
How many boys you got?
right? Too, right? And I was like, oh my God, I don't even need to go to the gym today because I met all my goals, right? And so, yeah, so like starting to realize like some of the daily activities that we take for granted that are great fitness activities.
Hmm.
Right. And so now I'm like, oh my God, I don't have time to go to the gym. I've got to do X, Y, and Z, but I can sweep my
Right.
house.
Right. There you go. I like that.
That was one of the things I noticed. And then as I've taken it forward, and really knowing. where my health level is because it's constantly changing. I've definitely on a fit quest to improve my metabolic health. So I am going and getting my, typical metabolic panel
Mhm.
and, getting away from the scale. I think that can just be so soul crushing
Yes.
and, doing one measurement, right? One measurement around your waist.
Mhm, mhm,
Healthy for a woman is 35 inches or below.
mhm,
Healthy for a man is 40 inches or below.
mhm, mhm.
Right. So that along with what's my blood sugar, what's my cholesterol, what are my general numbers? So my Fit Quest now is trying to get all of those numbers in a better place.
I think the more, what's the saying? What gets measured gets done.
Yeah.
You ever heard that one? I love that one.
Hmm.
I feel
Yeah.
like it is, it can be overwhelming, all the data too,
Yes, you're
right?
right. Yeah, I mean, go with caution because you can lose your mind. Just,
Right,
it's another device that can be an energy taker if I'm
right,
constantly looking at my numbers, right?
right. Exactly, exactly. So you got to balance the
Yes,
insight and the amount of data and the actions you take with that, right? But I
right,
really do think, for the most part, people can get a lot of benefit from getting some good health biometric data on themselves on their
right.
video because it's,
Well, and one thing I like about the ring is they do look at your stress levels. And they look at your sleep levels and they calibrate that out to really see what your resilience is and how your overall well-being is. And sometimes, my ring will say to me, you know what, you didn't really have a great sleep night and you did a lot of exercise yesterday. So today is, take it easy, right? And just somebody saying, take it easy today, Jen.
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I love
I know,
it.
I know. It's wild. It's wild, especially all the HRV data that I'm seeing, like the
Yes.
variability data that people are getting,
Yeah.
which you couldn't get good data like 5 years ago, really.
Right. No, you couldn't.
Hmm.
Not at all. And like all the wearables are getting so much better.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there. So, but it's another way to kind of help you get back on track.
Hmm. Hmm. Or even just, I really think just accruing data for the sake of accruing data. So at one point you can look, you know.
Yes. Yes. And it is amazing to look back and to
Hmm.
say like, how much I've improved from last year to, this year.
That's a big
And
thing. Like,
yeah.
I think it gives people a lot more context, and it usually surprises people in terms of their behavior changes over time,
Yeah. Right.
and that can be really useful. That's cool. I like that. That's awesome.
Hmm.
I'm a big tracking.
What are you working on?
I'm currently, let's see, we're working out a lot more outside right now.
Yes,
This
love
is
that.
my outside workout season, so I'm emerging into the the fields a lot more here on the farm and figuring out little workout stations that I can set up for myself. I got a fun one set up over by the tiny house right now. At
Good.
today. Really just trying to get my playlist right. I got a really good suggestion, which was from my amazing wife, which was to use Pandora for my workout playlist because I was getting stuck and I was like, I'm gonna spend 20 minutes today trying to
Right.
figure out a playlist that helps my energy.
Energy sucker right
Yes,
there.
energy sucker. And she's like, just go on Pandora, think of one thing that you want to listen to, and just go with that. And works so well.
It
Energy.
does. I love it. I
Yeah.
love how Pandora and even like Alexa and
Hmm.
all of them, you can just say, play music like this.
Hmm.
And there you go. There's your playlist.
Hmm. So much better. So that was
Mhm.
awesome. And then I'm working on, I'm always tracking my steps with my watch. And this time of year, I'm trying to get my steps up a little bit more. And I don't think I would be on top of it as much if my daughter wasn't tracking her steps now with her little watch thing that she has. So now I feel like I have to beat her because she's getting so many steps, right?
Right. Yeah, it is definitely fun to have somebody along the way in the journey.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I can't have it. I got to get those steps up, but in a fun way. I'm excited about it. It's that time of year too. And then the other stuff is working on movement snacks this month, which are mostly hand, wrist, and ankle movement snacks. So like shin raises, calf raises, and then
Hmm.
extensor. I was talking to you about finger extensor with the bands for the
Yes.
ankle. Go check
Yep.
out Jen's video
Yep.
she shared.
Right. I love to create simple things that are around your house to
Yeah,
exercise with,
yeah.
right?
So I'm using the
I
bands
do it
again
all
today.
the time. I'm always like, you don't need that. We'll just find something around your house. Like, don't buy that piece of equipment.
Uh-huh.
We'll do this,
Yeah,
right?
yes. That's been going really well in my, and I've been feeling good. And disc golfing has been going well, so I'm gonna try
Oh, fun golf.
disc
Yeah.
golf in, and I'm gonna try and do some more. The net walking is actually part of my. It does both. I get to see people, and I get to beat my daughter in steps per day when I go
Hmm.
on little net walking walks.
Oh my God, I'll give you one that I started last year. I don't like doing core exercises, even though they are the foundation and the most important thing to
Okay.
everything else.
Okay.
But what inspired me to do core exercises is I started taking horseback riding lessons.
Mm, yeah.
And then I
Doing
was like,
something
oh
fun,
my
and then you're like,
God.
well, I guess
I'm
so.
doing something fun made me be like, I gotta work on my core. Otherwise, I'm gonna fall right off this horse, right? And
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
that was another fun one. And I love, love, love it. I get out with nature, I get out
Yes.
with another animal,
Mhm.
connect with the horse, and
Very nice.
also work on my core.
Yes, exactly.
It's a win-win.
Win, win, win. Win, 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 win. Well, I think that's a good place to stop it. Thank you for being on the show, Jen. I'm gonna talk to Jen
Always
next.
fun to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See y'all.